My name is Kevin Franz. I am from originally born in New York, but have been living in Charlotte, North Carolina now for 30 some odd years. I am an architect and have been one now for 18 years. Originally starting as a visual arts major in the university, I had a professor who was an architecture professor, and I realized that I thought it was a lot more provoking to actually design a space instead of a piece of art. So I kind of combined the two together and came up with an idea of architecture as being an inhabitable piece of art. Originally, when I lived in New York, I lived in a two-story, very small house where each of the rooms were pretty tight. When moving down to North Carolina, my parents actually got a ranch-style house out in the middle of a very wide open space. Because it was somewhat isolated, my brother and I had to find things to do for ourselves. So a lot of times I would go in the back and basically design space in the forest. The inspiration for me is the client's needs. Many times I need to interview the client while they're interviewing me for the project, just to help them understand what they really want. When starting a new design, the process actually starts with creating a relationship with a client. The client will want a space because they have a need. The challenge is that they only know what they've seen, they don't know what they need. My goal is to have them answer questions for themselves as to what they need. Many times I'll show them images of open spaces versus confined spaces, nature versus metropolitan, see their eyes when they see the spaces, see how they respond when I ask them questions about that space. Basically, through all of these individual questions, you tend to see what they're thinking versus what they're saying. So once you get that moment, then you can go back, and really what I do is I look at how I can place their thoughts on paper with several options and feed off of how they respond to those. And this process continues throughout the schematic and design development stages. At the beginning, it's always the hand sketch, because really the feelings come out of the hands. It's not really pressing a key. It's more about pulling the pencil or the pen across the paper, really feeling the grain of the paper. How can I explain to them what it feels like if it's only two-dimensional? You really can't. So I look at three-dimensional sketches, drawings, isometrics as a way to kind of have them think in the same direction that I'm thinking. Oftentimes the orientation of the building is one of the key design characteristics of a site. One of the jobs or one of the projects I've recently worked on, I've opened up the north side to clear glass, a self-supporting glazing system approximately 20 feet high on the north side. So the space just has constant light throughout the day. Because of the shape of this building, the long rectangular shape, the south side was an extreme challenge. That we actually used some of the qualities of gathering this southern light using the solar panels as a shading device. Did two things. One, it provided the on-site power supply by absorbing that light into the panels, but at the same time, using those panels to actually shade the glass itself. One of my clients requested the use of operable windows in this building that we're looking at right now, and I had to explain to him that in some days, the temperature would actually range 40 to 50 degrees from the morning to the heat of the afternoon. He was completely surprised. He was startled at the fact that in one day the temperature could range 40 to 50 degrees. So having an operable window would not have a positive effect on the space where the temperature remains similar throughout the day. Whereas in the United States, one of the bigger challenges is the fact that we have such an open space. I think when you're looking at the master plan or the site plan of a space, you really need to take into account what effects it's going to have on the surrounding or adjacent spaces. And I say this when I'm looking at an empty lot downtown in a city. So really looking at adjacent spaces to assist in the creation of an appropriate master plan is one of the bigger challenges that really helps define the design of a building. There's always tweaks, always changes, and you have to be able to react, because when you make one change, the whole design, the whole landscape of a building will change. So you always have to be prepared to redirect the design in order to meet something that may have come up that was overlooked at the beginning. An architect is more than just a designer. I like to think of myself almost as a ringleader in a circus. You have all these different acts and different components in a circus, and it's the ringleader that makes sure that they're all working smoothly together to entertain the crowd, and in the end, make the visit to the circus worth it, make it enjoyable. If I were to say the most important factor about architecture is relationship. A client that's willing to come back after you've worked with him time and time again because he is satisfied with the work that I've done with them, not for them, but with them. I believe that being part of a team with both designers, contractors, owners, vendors, whatever, whoever it may be, I believe that working as a team is the key to making the perfect architectural statement. Dum-dum-ch.